Hello, welcome to my channel. Now let's start. Life has a funny way of surprising us when we least expect it. Have you ever found yourself in a moment where time seemed to stop? Where something so unexpected unfolded that it felt like the world had shifted on its axis? Today's story is one of those moments. A tale so incredible that it leaves people shaking their heads in disbelief. It's a story about a coffee delivery driver named John and a 50-year-old woman who had a request no one could have predicted. What she asked for wasn't just strange, it was incredible, life-changing, and unforgettable. This is not just a story about a simple act of kindness or a random encounter. It's about destiny, the impact of one decision, and how even the smallest interactions can create a ripple effect that touches many lives. Stay with me until the end, because I promise, what happens here will leave you amazed. John was a regular guy living in the city, working as a coffee delivery driver for a popular coffee chain. He was 26 years old, tall, with dark hair and an easy smile that made him the favorite delivery driver for most customers on his route. John had been working this job for about 3 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. He'd grown up in a small town where everyone knew everyone, but after high school, he moved to the city, chasing opportunities. Unfortunately, life didn't go quite as planned, and he found himself delivering coffee to survive. Each day started the same. Wake up early, clock in, pick up orders, and drive through traffic to deliver lattes, cappuccinos, and cold brews to offices, homes, and businesses across the city. John liked his job well enough. He liked chatting with regular customers and the way a hot cup of coffee could make someone's day just a little bit better. But deep down, John felt stuck. He often wondered, is this it? Is this all my life is going to be? It was a Monday morning, the kind of morning that felt heavy, as though the entire city was dragging itself out of bed to start another work week. John picked up his first round of orders from the coffee shop and set out for his deliveries. He spent the morning weaving through traffic, delivering coffees to sleepy office workers and busy students. Around 11 a.m., a new order popped up on his phone. It was a delivery for a woman named Sarah who lived in a quiet, upscale neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. The order was simple: 1 large caramel macchiato, extra hot. John didn't think much of it. Another delivery, another coffee, he thought, as he punched the address into his GPS and started driving. The house was impressive. It sat at the top of a hill, surrounded by neatly trimmed hedges and an iron gate that opened automatically as John pulled up. The driveway was long and winding, leading to a beautiful white house with tall windows and a porch that looked like it belonged on the cover of a magazine. John parked his car, grabbed the coffee, and walked up the steps to the front door. He rang the doorbell and waited. The door opened slowly, and there she was. Sarah, a woman in her early 50s. She was elegant, with silver-streaked hair pulled into a neat bun and wearing a crisp white blouse and slacks. Her face was kind, but there was something in her eyes, a hint of sadness perhaps, or maybe just exhaustion. "Good morning," John said with his usual friendly smile. 1 caramel macchiato, extra hot." Sarah smiled faintly and took the coffee. "Thank you. I'm so glad you're here." Her words struck John as odd. Most customers just said, "Thank you," or "Have a nice day," but this was different. Before John could respond, Sarah looked at him and said something that made him freeze in place. "I need your help with something. Something unusual." John blinked. My help?" Sarah nodded. "Yes, it's not something I would normally ask, but I need someone I can trust, and I don't have anyone else to ask." John felt a little uneasy. "What do you mean?" Sarah took a deep breath and glanced over her shoulder, as if making sure no one else was listening. "Please come inside. I'll explain everything." Now, most people might have turned and walked away. After all, it's not every day that a stranger invites you into their home with such an unusual request. But there was something about Sarah, something sincere, almost desperate, that made John hesitate. Against his better judgment, he stepped inside. The inside of Sarah's house was just as beautiful as the outside. It was elegant but lived in, with soft rugs, antique furniture, and framed photographs on the walls. "Please sit down," Sarah said, gesturing to a chair in the living room. John sat, still holding the now empty coffee tray, and waited. Sarah paced for a moment before finally speaking. "Here's the thing. I know this is going to sound strange, but I need you to drive me somewhere. Right now." John furrowed his brow. "Drive you? But I'm working. I have other deliveries to make." "I'll pay you for your time," Sarah said quickly, "and I'll make it worth your while." "I promise," John hesitated. He had bills to pay and couldn't afford to lose his job. But before he could respond, Sarah said something that changed everything. "This isn't just about me. Someone's life might depend on it." John's heart skipped a beat. Someone's life? Reluctantly, John agreed. He didn't know what he was getting himself into, but Sarah's urgency was impossible to ignore. She grabbed a small bag from the hallway, and together they walked out to John's car. As they drove away, Sarah gave John an address to an old part of town that John wasn't very familiar with. "Can I ask where we're going?" John said cautiously. Sarah stared out the window, her expression distant. "We're going to find someone I haven't seen in 20 years. "Who?" "My son," she said quietly. John was stunned. "Your son?" Sarah nodded. "I know this must seem strange to you, but I can't explain everything right now. Just trust me. This is important." As they drove, Sarah began to open up. She told John about her past, how she'd had a son when she was young, but due to difficult circumstances, they'd been separated. She'd spent years trying to find him, but with no success. "Yesterday," Sarah said, "I finally got a lead. Someone spotted him in an old neighborhood downtown. This might be my only chance to see him again." John listened quietly, his heart going out to her. He couldn't imagine what it must have been like to spend 20 years searching for someone you loved. When they finally arrived at the address, the neighborhood looked run down and forgotten. Sarah's hands trembled as she stepped out of the car. Together, they walked to a small, dilapidated house. Sarah knocked on the door, and after a long pause, it creaked open. A man in his 30s stood there, looking confused. "Can I help you?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "It's me, your mother." The man froze, his face a mix of shock, anger, and confusion. The following moments were tense. The man, whose name was Daniel, didn't know how to respond. Years of pain and unanswered questions bubbled to the surface. Sarah explained everything, why they'd been separated, how hard she'd tried to find him, and how much she loved him. At first, Daniel resisted, but as the minutes passed, his walls began to crumble. He saw the sincerity in his mother's eyes, and for the first time in decades, he allowed himself to feel the love he'd been denying. By the time John drove Sarah home, the sun was setting. Sarah was quiet, but there was a peace about her that hadn't been there before. Before John left, Sarah turned to him and smiled. "Thank you, John. You didn't have to help me, but you did. And because of you, I got my son back." John drove away that night feeling different. The simple act of delivering coffee had turned into something extraordinary, something he would never forget. Sometimes life puts us in situations we never expect. A simple coffee delivery became a journey of love, reconciliation, and hope. So remember this: you never know how one small decision could change someone's life, or even your own. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more incredible tales like this one.